Are you a parent or a caregiver of a toddler? Maybe someone who's around 1 year old or 2 years old, and you're hoping to help your little one with acquiring their first words. Hi, my name is Amini. I'm a speech and language pathologist with several years of experience working in both schools and clinics. And I've started this YouTube channel to help empower parents and caregivers, especially for children under the age of 5, because this is when a child is really developing and their brain is developing so fast, and whatever language they have in these years is really the foundation for their learning later on. And if little tidbits and tips can help boost that, then why not? Now, going back to our question, how can you help your toddler get their first words? Well, the first thing I want to mention that's very important to note is that when it comes to talking, toddlers do not respond well to pressure. So the more that you are pressuring or telling a child to say this, or I won't do it unless you say, the less that's going to work. So you really don't want to force a child to do anything, and you don't want to increase the expectations because a child can sense that. And language happens nice and easily. It happens when a child is playing, having fun. It doesn't happen when there's a lot of stress. So that's something really important to keep in mind. So if you're stressed out, definitely toning down that stress and making sure your child does not feel it, making sure you're not placing demands on your child is very, very important. Can't emphasize it enough. Now, without further ado, let's go into my 3 tips to how you can help your child talk. The first thing that you can do to really help your child is to start talking a lot. So let's talk about this a little bit more because it seems very common sense. When I say talk a lot, you could do it in a very targeted way. So if you are talking to your child as you're doing your daily activities and you're saying things like, I'm writing this down, or I put the ornament on the Christmas tree, that's all great. But something important to note is a child at around 1 year old is trying to say just one word at a time, or maybe even at 2 years if they're a little bit behind. They're only trying to say one word at a time. So when you're talking, you can really slow down and point out one word at a time, especially in 5 or 10-minute increments when you're around your child. So you can do this in daily routines, or you could do it while playing. So let me give you an example. Say you're cooking, you can start to talk about what it is that you're doing using slow one-word targeted utterances. So say your child is in a chair here, and you're cooking, you can start with cut. You can talk about how you're cutting the vegetables. Just say cut. Or maybe when you're mixing, you can say, oh, look what I'm doing. Mix. That's a mix. Or maybe you've made some soup and you can say, oh, look at this, yummy soup, and really show it to your child, get close to their face, soup. So that really targeted showing of one word at a time with your child's attention is very helpful. Another way you could do this is in play. So say, for example, you're working with one of these ramps, which are a big hit with little ones. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Yes. So if you're working with one of these ramps, you can just talk about the things that you see with the ramp. So you can say, oh, hammer. Here's our hammer. We have a ramp, and a ball. It's blue. Ball, blue. We want to go down, right? Let's go down. Again, notice the way I'm really pausing. I'm pausing and I'm emphasizing the words that I'm pointing at. This helps your child to really notice what you're saying and maybe even copy it. So that's the first one. Speak in one word, slow utterances, at least once in a while. If you can do this for 5 or 10 minutes a day with your child's full attention, they will start to notice the things that you're saying, especially if you use the same targets over and over again. So if you're using that ramp every day, with time, your child will become very comfortable saying those words. Another tip that I have to help your toddler with first words is to repeat things over and over and over again. So if you notice, I was doing it a little bit when I was talking about speaking at one word at a time. You want to say things at least 2 or 3 times. So why is this? Well, if you think about learning a new language, usually when anybody is learning a new language, they're more comfortable hearing things than saying them. And your toddler is the same way. So when they're hearing things, they might be taking in a lot, but you really have to have so much comfort with the word before you attempt it. So for example, you probably won't think twice before you attempt a word like gracias in Spanish because you've heard it so many times. Whereas zapato, you might think twice. Am I saying it right? Is that a zapato, etc.? So it's the same thing with the toddler. A toddler needs to hear it over and over again until they get that comfort to make those attempts themselves. So normally I say with any word that you're pointing out, if you really want to get good results, repeat at least 3 times over and over, slowly with pauses. So let me give you an example. If I was going to do this with a toy train, then I would get my toy train here. And maybe I'm going to open, right? So I'm going to open this box. So I'm going to say open. Let's open. I'm going to open. See how I did 3 opens before I even move to my next word. Notice how I also use something that's very motivating for a toddler. They're probably paying attention to me because I need to open the box. Once I've opened the box, I can start to label the things in the box in the same way. So here's my car. That's my car. Wow, car. It's red. Red car. Check it out. It's red. And it goes zoom. This red car goes zoom. This one goes zoom. So again, notice each of those one words that I emphasized in small utterances, and notice the way I paused and was very slow so that the child in front of me is definitely going to notice what it is that I pointed out. You could do this for the entire box of tracks and cars, and you're going to notice that that's going to take up at least 10 or 15 minutes of time, which is 10 or 15 minutes of really targeted speech and language time, which is great. The last tip that I have, so we've already talked about saying words one at a time really intentionally. We've also talked about repeating those words at least 2 or 3 times. The last thing that I would emphasize that I've been doing in each of these models is pausing. Pausing is big, especially after you've repeated something a few times. Why? Because a child might repeat after you. It's kind of the logic of Dora the Explorer. If you've seen that show, she pauses because the person watching might repeat after her. So after you've showed your child something and you've talked about it for a while, then comes the time when you can wait and see if your child is going to say something back. They might not. It is okay if they do not. You don't have to get stuck on that word and force the child to say it or get them bored. It doesn't matter. You just say it 3 or 4 times, pause, see if you're going to get an attempt back. If you do, great. If you don't, that's okay. Move on. The other really nice thing about a pause is it takes the pressure off. So you gave a lot of information and then you're just waiting. A, for processing, and then you're also waiting to see if in this less pressured environment, your child is going to say something. So I'll show you this with some markers. Say that you're pointing out some of these markers. Say you've got, here's our red marker. Wow, cool, red. It's red. Look what I'm going to do. Ready? Red. I colored red. Here you go. And then I wait. Sometimes waiting is very hard. I can wait up to 10 seconds. I can wait up to 30 seconds. If you're impatient like me, you can set a timer and wait. Give your child the red crayon and see what he'll say, what she will say, whether she'll make an attempt. It's really quite fun if you can get into the rhythm of it. If nothing happens, that's okay. You can at least give yourself a pat on the back for trying to teach this word, and for giving that opportunity for your child to get there themselves. So those are our 3 tips. Remember, 1 is labeling 1 at a time really intentionally. 2 is repeating over and over again. And 3 is making sure after some repeats, you're giving pauses so that your child has the opportunity to try again. So some things to note. These are just some tips to get you started. There's definitely a lot more tips on how you can get your child to talk more. But if you feel like none of these tips are working and you're not getting any responsiveness from your child at all, and you continue to see that there's not much improvement, like with everything, earlier is better. So if you are concerned, please speak to your pediatrician. Please make an appointment with a speech therapist. All of these tips on my channel will help you get started, but they are not a substitute for therapy. So it's very important to get that done sooner than later. If you want more resources, you can check out the links in the description box below. I have a mailing list with free monthly tips on speech and language development for toddlers all the way to kindergartners. There's also an ebook on toddler language development, a parent education course, and some of the lovely toys that I've used in this video will also be linked if you're interested in purchasing. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe and happy talking.